So, for someone who is very logical or science minded, or who has never experienced any energy work, what is Reiki?
Reiki is all about using the life force energy and balancing the inner chakras that you have. A lot of people don't know what does alignment means. What people really know these days is what I call the open loops. Touch somebody and you start to heal somebody because it's a hands-on healing modality. We use our hands to be able to send the healing to the other person. So it's like, how is it possible when someone touches me and they heals me?
So, when you said you were this angry mom, how did those emotions or those experiences showed up in your body, like, or in your energy field? Like, what did you discover, like, later?
Reiki is one of those modalities that you really don't need to know. It is very beautiful. Sometimes, and you guys know that I teach NLP as well. So there's a lot of linguistics that I'm quite proud of that I hold. Sometimes words doesn't do the job, but energy healing would. So there's high energy and then there is low energy. Now, when the energy kind of comes together and they balance, that process in physics is called entrainment.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Wellbeing in Me podcast. In today's episode, my co host Indu and I met with Ankita Mahajan, who is a NLP, hypnosis, and a life coaching trainer, as well as a Reiki grandmaster. She has spent over half a decade equipping coaches and healers with powerful tools to create lasting transformation. And in today's episode, she taught us the basics of Reiki, how it works, how to use it for self healing and healing others. And she was explaining how blending energy work as well as working on the subconscious mind is a very powerful combination because it helps in creating that lasting change. And we thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I really loved how it is built based on gratitude in its foundation. And yeah, the biggest takeaway was to incorporate in our daily practice, learn Reiki and how to incorporate in our daily practice for self healing. And we really hope you will be inspired by this conversation and you will embrace Reiki for your own healing and for healing others too. So, for someone who is very logical or science minded, or who has never experienced any energy work, what is Reiki?
Oh, that's a very good question, Meena. That's a very, very good question. So, the way I like to explain what Reiki really is, Reiki is universal life force, right? And I truly believe that each one of us already has it. We all have it already inside of us. It's just that through teachers, through mentors, we have to remind ourselves of who we truly are and we evoke that energy within ourselves. Mentors would usually pass it on to their students, but I believe, as a master of Reiki, I truly believe that each and every one has that life force energy within themselves. And we just as teachers have to remind themselves of the power that they have within. And once we've done that, the student can really help with that life force energy, either help themselves align themselves better, or then go ahead and help others to align better in their life. We with Reiki work on what we call the chakra system, right? All of probably you guys have heard it, or the viewers would have heard it. There are seven chakras that we have in our body, starting from the root chakra to the sacral chakra. Then we've got our solar plexus, we've got our heart chakra placed in our heart, we've got our throat chakra, we've got our third eye chakra, and then we've got our crown chakra. So these are called our energy systems in our body. Scientifically, also, it has been proven that we have glands associated and we have these energy systems in our body, right? So, Reiki is all about using the life force energy and balancing the inner chakras that you have. So, what we do with Reiki is we use the idea of life force energy, we take each chakra and we heal it, right? We use one chakra at a time We align that chakra, we move on to the other chakra, we align it. So by the end of a Reiki segment or a Reiki session, you will feel completely aligned. And when I say the word aligned, let me explain it to you. What does that mean, right? Because a lot of people don't know what does alignment means. What people really know these days is what I call the open loops, right? So, what do we do throughout our day? Let's look at our day starting right from the beginning. We are rushing towards work, right? We have one email open and we haven't answered it. There is a phone call that is buzzing, we are not able to get to it. The child has asked for something, we're like, okay, we'll do it in the evening, correct? We have a Netflix episode that we have left half open, right? And then we've got one reel that we watched for 10 seconds and we moved on to the next one. We watched 5 seconds of that. And about, we don't realize, but we watch about 50, 60 reels at one go, watching 3 seconds, 1 10 seconds, 1 50 seconds, or one. And we are continuously doing that, right? Then we reach our office finally, right? There's so much in the office going on. There's some tasks that are pending. All of that is happening. We come back home. We're trying to only kind of get through the day, right? We're trying to get through the day. So, what do we have by the end of the day is what I call the open loops in our mind. There's so many tabs that are open. There's one tab, that tab, but there's so many tabs that are open, right? That is called an open tab body, where I call it like an open tab. You're open, right? Anything that comes your way, you will be soaking it in without realizing, right? When we talk about energy alignment, we are consciously slowly closing all our tabs and coming in one balanced line, right? We're not in the loop of overthinking, this is left, that is left. There's no anxiety. We are balanced and we are in one line in our body. So, chakra also, metaphorically, I would say, helps you align and create that line inside of your body where you can say, okay, this is my alignment line. So now I feel aligned because I've balanced my chakra. I have contracted all of the energy that was outside. When we have open loops, there's like so much happening outside, right? We've contracted all of that and we have aligned. That's what really Reiki is. Reiki is an alignment tool where you can heal yourself with the life force energy that Reiki is. Reiki is passed through teachers to you, right? Although I truly still believe, like I said, everybody has Reiki in themselves and it's aligning your chakras in one balanced segment. That's what Reiki is.
So when you explained about this multiple tabs open, that is exactly who I am. You described me there. Literally, even when I'm working on my PC, I'm like, sometimes I have so many tabs open, and then that's how I overthink and get anxious, and that's what drew me into the energy work in the first place. Like I really needed to learn to have a focused mind and more aligned. Yeah. So, what drew you into Reiki? What happened in your life, and what made you learn Reiki?
A very interesting, very interesting question. The reason why I say it's very interesting is because it's been so many years, and Reiki has been one of the predominant modalities. It is one of the tools that I have been able to use every single day since I have learned it. And Reiki came to my life really by chance, and I was very opposed to the idea of energy healing. Forget opposed. I was like, how is this even possible, right? So I remember, so the reason why I actually got into this field of energy healing, subconscious work, was because of parenting. I was a very angry person, and I didn't realize how much anger I had holded in my body till the time my husband didn't go away for a couple of years for work purposes. So when he was away, I realized that it was either my way or highway with my children. And every day it became a cycle of anger in the morning and guilt in the evening, crying that I have screamed on them, I've said something bad. So it was like a cycle that was going on. So I was only researching how could I be a better person? How could I be a better mother? Right? That's what I was looking out at. And it was during that time that I realized through one of the incidents, it's a long story. It was one of the incidents I realized that I was carrying. a lot of anger that was not even mine. So I came across a word as I did my research called the intergenerational trauma. And I realized the anger that I held in my body was not mine. The anger was not mine. It was my mother's anger in my body, because I knew that I did not have to get angry. I knew that part I knew, but I was not able to figure out what should I do. I tried journaling, I tried yoga, I tried everything. So I wasn't sure what to do. And rightly said, so the right teacher appears in your life when you are ready. As I was really out there searching for the things, the right things, one of my friends, she she asked me, she said, have you heard about Reiki? I said no, because I had never heard about this word. I had no idea. Even from India, I'd never heard about this word at all. So I said, I don't know what Reiki is. She said, I'm thinking of doing this course. Do you want to do it with me? And I'm like, I, I'm not sure what Reiki is. So I decided that I'm going to just research a little bit what Reiki is, right? And then I read about it and I was like, that's bullshit, right? How can you touch somebody and you start to heal somebody? Because it's a hands on healing modality. We use our hands to be able to send the healing to the other person. So it's like, how is it possible that someone touches me and they heals me? Oh, that's rubbish. That's not right. Right. So I actually then completely put the idea aside till I became more inquisitive about it. And then in about 1 or 2 months, I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a go. Right. So I started from a place of criticism, saying, this doesn't work. How can this work? To becoming a total fan when I did it. So the first time I actually got attuned by my teacher, that is when I felt that, oh my gosh, there was so much in my life that I did not know. That's how I really started. So I did level one, then I did level two, and then I became a master. It took over 3 years for me to be able to do that, 3 to 4 years. Although that's how I was introduced. It was all through saying, how is this possible, to becoming a total fan of Reiki and using it as a daily practice now.
Amazing, amazing. So, when you said you were this angry mom, how did those emotions or those experiences showed up in your body, like, or in your energy field? Like, what did you discover, like, later?
Yeah, so I did not know at that time anything about the energy field. I did not know anything about, all it was showing up in my life was kids who were really scared. That's how it showed up, Meena, in my life, right? And it showed up as a lot of guilt in my body, like, you know, where I was, you know, really, I used to feel guilty at the end of the day. Not so much the kids were fine, doing their own thing. We all scream on our kids here and there, but for me, it was more about the fact that I knew that I did not want to do that. That's how it was showing up. So that was what was happening in my real life. I did not know about anything about my energy field, about my aura, and all of those kind of things. When I started to work on my chakras through Reiki level one, that's where I realized that I had root issues. Now, when we talk about root chakra is a chakra that is associated with family, right? That is associated with your core family. And when I started doing the work specifically on root, understanding connection with my roots, I realized that is what was shaky. So I started building that, enhancing on that, giving myself a lot of healing in that area. Reiki is one of those modalities that you really don't need to know. It is very beautiful. Sometimes, and you guys know that I teach NLP as well. So there's a lot of linguistics that I'm quite proud of that I hold. Sometimes words doesn't do the job, but energy healing would. That's where we have to combine both these modalities together. And the idea of Reiki is not really for you to find out exactly what was wrong. Even if you don't find it out, you're still able to align it. That's the beauty of energy healing, right? That's the beauty of it. You still get complete alignment with the ideology of each chakra and understanding it. So when I place my hand on the root chakra, that's where I found the most imbalance. Then you understand what really root stands for. Root stands for your family, your relationships. Then realized, okay, so I was holding so much inside of me, slowly started to release that. So it's not really very wordy. It's very energy based.
Right. That's interesting to know about that from your experience, Ankita. Now, when you were saying about in the first question, like, people have the open tabs and, one can align through Reiki. Most of us thinks that's the way of life, and then we term that, oh, I'm stressed about, what's happening in my daily routine. And then they keep moving on. What would be the indication for someone who's going through that they could understand that I need to align my energy internally? And then, so what are the symptoms? That's the first part of the question. And the second is, once they go through this Reiki process, what they internally would feel that, because I believe what we are going through is more logical than what we are going through is very internalized. So how can they really understand, okay, this is what I've been through. After Reiki, I'm like feeling more aligned. Like they literally feel that alignment, what we are talking about. So how do they go with that?
Very good question. So when people come to us specifically and they understand that Reiki is one of the things that they can use to align themselves, they usually are coming from a space which holds, specifically in their body, they are feeling stressed, they are feeling anxious, they are overthinking, they are negative thoughts. And most of the time people will reach to Reiki when, see, nobody, like you said, very rightly said, anxiety, part of life. Overthinking has become part of life. I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and I was holding an NLP foundation workshop, which I was doing yesterday. And this is exactly the conversation we had. How common has it become? Diabetes, part of life. Thyroid, part of life. Or just a heart attack. Everybody gets done these days. Not a big deal, right? Obesity, no problems. And we were even laughing about the fact that if somebody says, I have thyroid and my thyroid is this much, the other person might come and say, oh, my thyroid is higher than that. It has become a joke, that we have normalized diseases in our body. And the first thing that we have to understand when it comes to symptoms, I always say that there are, that your body actually is communicating to you at different levels. And the last, when it realizes that you have not been listening to it at all, that's when your body starts to create the disease. Disease is dis-ease in your body, right? There's absolute dis-ease in your body, and that's what is causing disease. When you're not looking at the symptoms of anxiety, when you're not looking at stress, when you're not looking at overthinking, and you're just pushing through your day, you're passing your day like an everyday rut, those becomes diseases later in your body. So when people come to us, they are usually at the stage where they are overthinking, or they have negative thought patterns, or they are not sure what is wrong. Sometimes people can't explain, and we all have to understand as energy healers that sometimes people don't have words to explain their problems. They just know that there is something that is not right. So those are the symptoms that show up in the beginning when somebody comes to us, and that's why they would come to us to learn Reiki. That's the very first level, like realizing there is a problem, and we want to kind of work on ourselves, because people don't really know that alignment is required. That's not something that they're looking for. People are only looking for a way to feel normal and themselves again. That's it. That's all they want. So when somebody would come to us, and we have, big batches of Reiki 2025 people working together, understanding the idea of Reiki energy healing, working on themselves, really the end result, which is really, really beautiful, is that they learn how to listen to themselves and trust themselves. That is the most important thing that happens out of a Reiki session. Each and every Reiki session that I take, that I do with my students, the outcome has always been that. People come so disconnected from their bodies. They are not listening to their inner voices. They are not connected with who they truly are. And by the end, it is really beautiful how you see transition from people coming at point A, not knowing anything about energy, and leaving at point B after the end of the session, where they know how to align themselves in a 7 to 10 minutes practice. They are doing their 21 minutes practice that we give them every day. They know which chakra stands where, how can they clean their aura, how can they see auras, right? How can they actually visualize auras of other people? How can they expand their energy? How can they create a boundary? All of this is taught during the sessions. So ultimately, what happens is they start to learn to trust their bodies and listen to their bodies. That's where the healing really begins.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, as you were mentioning about 7 minutes practice and 21 minutes practice, is it all happening? Is there any levels in the Reiki, or yeah, is it like, I believe you said something like everybody has got that self healing ability, but then there is something that they need to do deep more. How does Reiki work in your class? Like, are there different levels?
Sure. So there are three levels in Do that we have when as far as Reiki is concerned. Reiki level 1 is usually considered as a self-healing space where you come from a world where you're not sure what is going around. You're just not satisfied with what is happening. Like I've mentioned before, anxiety, stress, overthinking, disease, and you don't know what will work. You've tried things, right? So that is where it comes, and we always say start with self healing. So, Reiki level 1 is all about self healing, where we teach them about the basic science of, and I say science because I combine a lot of science to Reiki, right? So, we learn the basic art and science of how Reiki is developed. What do we do with Reiki? We learn history of Reiki in the first segment, right? We also understand about different chakras, which body part are they connected to. So I take them on a deeper dive. What does different colors mean? I intuitively guide them to align with their own self to see those colors in the chakras as well, understanding all of those segments. And we then give them a practice. The practice is done for 21 days. And there's also a reason for that. The reason is hidden in the history, which is very beautiful. So 21 days we do a practice. The practice takes about 20 to 30 minutes as you start. And by the time you finish the practice, it only takes 7 to 10 minutes to be able to do it. It becomes your daily practice then. So because in the first few days, right, of the 21 days that you are doing that practice, you are following instructions, you are new to the practice, so it takes about 30 minutes, right? From starting, the practice begins with gratitude always, and the practice ends with cutting cords. So we go through an entire segment. There's a couple of steps that we follow. The whole practice takes about 20, 25 to 30 minutes if you are new to the practice, right? If you're starting the practice. Once you have started to work on yourself, you know what steps are to be followed. By the last week, you are doing this practice in about 7 to 10 minutes. And that is what becomes your daily practice. So the first level is about self healing. The second level is about helping others, right? About helping others. So with first level also in your attunement, you can help yourself for sure because you get attuned to help yourself, and you are able to help others in physical realm. That what does that mean? That if you are physically present with somebody, you can provide them Reiki with your healing hands once you are tuned in the practice. The level 2 is all about healing others in distant. That means if I am sitting in Australia and someone is sitting in America, I can give them healing, right? Distant healing. So we use in distant healing, we use certain symbols for distant healing and for sending those healings to people who are away from us, who are not close in physical reality with us, right? So we teach symbols as a part of practice during the level 2. In level 3, you become the master, right? You are being given the master symbol where you also can hold attunement for other people. So that's the master level. I always recommend that every single person should do level 1. It is something that should be made mandatory in the world, right? Level 1, 110%. Level 2, if you think that is what you want to do and help others and heal others, and should be able to use this in your practice as a healer, 110% level 2. I only recommend, and in all honesty, I am quite strict about giving the master symbol to people because it comes with a lot of responsibility, right? So when you become a master, only make sure that you have practiced level 1, level 2 enough over a period of time. Only when you feel aligned to go to the master level do you do that. So there are 3 levels.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but why hands? I always had that question.
Why hands? That's a very, very good question. Why always just hands? So our hands have chakras placed inside of them, right? And think about it. When you give something to somebody, what do you use? You don't give it with your legs. We give gifts with our hands, right? Reiki is a gift. That's what it is. It's a gift. Although, can I tell you something which will blow your mind?
Go for it.
Right? Something that will blow your mind. In my belief, hand is more metaphorical. Everything is happening in the mind.
Mm,
The healing is actually done here, right? You actually start to feel heat in your body. You actually do, as a healer. There is so much heat in your body that is getting generated. And if there is heat in your body that is getting generated, I mean, the best way to do it is to project it out to the person and direct it to the person. So you are sending it to them, correct? You're giving it as a gift. You're saying that this is now yours. This healing is now yours. So that's why hands. But the main work is happening here, Meena.
mm,
That is where the main work happens. And this is where I combine a lot of Reiki with the subconscious mind work, and how do we do it here, right?
mm,
When we teach Reiki, the idea of Reiki, Reiki level 1, be it Reiki level 2, when you are working with yourself or you're working with others, what is that you have to do? You have to imagine or visualize your chakras aligning, right? You have to imagine or visualize yourself in great health,
mm.
happy, right? Being aligned, doing the work that where is that you imagine, Meena? Where do you imagine from?
Yeah, definitely in my mind. Yeah.
Correct. So that is where the main work is happening. And then of course, because there's so much heat that is there, and you want to be able to give that heat to yourself wherever it's needed, right? Wherever it's needed, it's more metaphorical, but it's not that you can only do it with hand. A lot of work happens here as well. Hands are more metaphorical so that we are guiding our bodies, right? That this is what we are doing. This is where we are projecting energy. So if my hand's on the heart, I know I'm projecting it on the heart. See? So if I'm pointing towards that, my mind will go towards that, right? So if I'm pointing towards my heart, my intention, my energy flow will go towards my heart. So it's more guiding.
Mm,
The hand is a more of a guide that comes to you, but the main work happens here, Meena.
mm. Understand. So, what happens in a Reiki session? Like, you give them instructions and guide them, and then they follow. How does it happen?
So, self healing and healing others happens in two different ways, right? So, let's start with the self healing process. And based on that, you will also start to understand how we look at helping others. So, once you've done your Reiki level 1, you've attuned yourself, like you have attuned you for the practice. How is that you do a self healing process? Because it's different to how you do it for others, right? It's a little bit different.
Mm,
So we start to, first of all, there's basically four parts to it. There's four parts to it. The first part is gratitude. Always have gratitude for your teachers, for your own presence, for the teachers that you taught you, gratitude for Reiki. A lot of gratitude. And I always say, Keep giving gratitude for as long as you wish. Give gratitude to your parents. Anybody that comes to your mind, continue to give gratitude. Get your body in a state of complete gratitude first. That is step number one. Always. The second step is you call the Reiki energy in, right? You call the Reiki energy in. Now that you are in gratitude, your body is more aligned to calling something in. Imagine sitting in fury, right? Nothing is coming to you. Get in a space, sit down, and just have gratitude. Gratitude is one of those things that completely, your body starts to think of things very differently. Everything looks really nice and beautiful, and that's the best time to call in Reiki. So after you place gratitude, you call Reiki in, and then you protect yourself. So once the Reiki is in your Reiki box, we call it a Reiki box, we protect ourselves, right? We seal ourselves in what we call the pyramid of light. And we say, I'm safe, sealed, and protected. I'm safe, sealed, and protected. And we create a pyramid around us. Some people might want to create a bubble around them. I choose to create a pyramid around me, right? I sit in a pyramid of light. After that, the third step is cleaning your aura, right? So we give you a practice of aura cleansing. So we clean our aura with cupping and combing practice. We call it cupping and combing, and we clean our aura. And it is really interesting when you actually start to clean your aura, do you find out so much in your energetic field that there is resistance. It's hard to clean it for the first few times when you're cleaning it. It's really, really difficult. It's not easy to clean aura because you would actually feel so much gunk in your body when you're releasing that. And the last step is when we balance our chakras. We start focus and attention towards each chakra. So we place our hands, the healing hands that we now have called Reiki in, on our root chakra, which is at the base of our spine. So we start with at the base of the spine. So we give energy healing, the Reiki energy healing, to the root chakra first. Then we go from the root chakra all the way to our sacral chakra. We balance the sacral chakra. Then we go to the solar plexus. We look at balancing that. We then go to our heart chakra, balance that. Then we place our hands on our throat. We balance that. And we place our hands on our third eye like this. We balance that, and then the crown chakra. So we balance the seven chakras, right? Once we are done with this four steps, once we are done with this four steps, we thank Reiki again and we let the Reiki go. This is a self healing practice. And I think everybody should do it. Every single person should do it. This should be your daily practice. A lot of people get confused and they say, oh my gosh, I want to sit and meditate, but I don't know what to do, right? I don't know. Like, I want to do meditation. I cannot tell you how much this changed my life because I did not know what to do because we are such doers, right? Like our mind is always doing, doing, doing. What do I do when I'm meditating is this. This is your meditation practice. This becomes your daily 7 to 8 minute practice where after you've done it for 21 days, it just takes 7 to 10 minutes and you're able to do it in your own time, right? You can do this. You don't have to sit in meditation. This is a walking practice for me also. Wherever I'm standing somewhere, I just want to place my hands on my heart. We just call in Reiki, give gratitude, and you start healing yourself. You could be sitting in a sofa, I could be sitting on a train for all I care. But this becomes your practice, it becomes a part of who you are. This is called a self healing practice. Now, once you feel that you've aligned enough and you are ready to help others, you are ready to go ahead and help others, you can do it two ways. With Reiki level 1, you can only help others in physical presence. That means they have to be there in the room with you. So you can start with your children, you can start with your partners, your parents if they're around you, and you can start giving Reiki healing in level 1 only to people who are physically present, right? How is that you give Reiki healing to them? When you're working with people, right? When you're working with people, you're going to work with people because people have a problem, isn't it?
Mm.
You're not just going to go put your hand up and say, I'm going to heal the world. It doesn't work like that. You're going to work with people because people have a problem. Say, for example, a person is coming to you, so I'm really stressed, there's so much anxiety. Continuously, I'm living in fear. My heart is thumping out of my body, and I don't know what to do. Okay, now you decide you want to give them Reiki, and that's the practice that you guys have chosen, right? Now, what is that you do as a healer and client relationship? So when they are physically present with you, you place your hands, not you don't have to touch them, but you just place your hands exactly on the little bit away, right? And in all honesty, because there's so much heat that comes out of your body, it's very hard to touch somebody. Your hand wouldn't go there because there'll be a full blown healing coming out of it. You can energetically feel that you can't actually close your hands, so you will place them a little bit further away. But when we start with healing others, I always guide my students to not follow step by step practice. Self healing, this is the practice. But when we say healing others, start with gratitude, remains the same. Call in Reiki, protect yourself. Protecting yourself is the most important step when you're working with somebody else, because you don't want their energy or energy to be interlinked, right? The idea of healing others, we start to create an electromagnetic field between them and us, right? It's like an incubator that gets created, right? Right? And what happens is, scientifically also, right? If we have something of a higher energy and we place something of a lower energy with it, right? At some point in time, both energies will be balanced. That's how it works. So, Reiki energy is high energy, someone who's come in stress is low energy, right? So, when you're working in the incubator, you're giving them healing, you start to balance both the energies together. So, in step number 3, when you are working with others, you start to create this incubator and you start to work with them. And I always say work intuitively. Start with crown chakra when you're working with others, right? And make your way down through the root chakra. With others and with ourselves, I also say use your feet chakra. Place hands on your feet as well, because there's lots of energy that is going on from there. Two open sources, our hands and our feet, right? So we make sure that we also give healing energy to our feet as well, because energy is coming out of our hands at that time. So we give energy healing to the feet as well. So that's when you're working with somebody physically, work with aligning their chakras based on intuitively how you feel, which chakra to heal first, which chakra to heal second. I also teach in Reiki level 2, when we work with others, symbols and using crystals, right? Symbols and using crystals. So this was physical. The first was when someone is physically there with you. But if someone is not physically there with you, you can use symbols to give them energy and to provide them energy wherever they are sitting in the world. It doesn't matter. Process remains the same, but we use charts. Either we use charts, right, in which we say, okay, we are visualizing them on a chart, and we start to place crystals there because they are further away, and we start giving them healing energy. We don't even have to see people. It doesn't even have to be over a Zoom session, right? They can be anywhere. So we use what we call surrogates, right? A surrogate could be a piece of paper, for example. Surrogate could be your hand. I use my hand a lot as surrogate, so I'm always constantly providing energy from my one hand to the other. So I use this as a surrogate for other person. You can use pictures to give healing to them. And why do we use pictures, or we can call them over Zoom? Again, focus. It's not woo woo, it's very subconscious. If you are looking at the person and you're giving them Reiki healing, if you have a picture of them and you're giving them Reiki healing, your mind will be able to focus better on them, because we are healers, right? We're not superhumans or whatnot, that our mind will not woggle here and there. But if we have a picture, it's easier to focus, right? If we have crystals placed on each chakra, it's easier to focus for us as well, right? So that's how both the level works, and these are the steps that are involved in providing healing to yourself and to others.
Beautiful. Like, I was mesmerized by what you were saying. Yeah, I have done some other healing modality on the energy space. Yeah, but what you explained about Reiki, starting with gratitude and taking it all the way, that's amazing. But then, how does energy and the subconscious mind work together for the receiver?
Oh, very good question. Let's start with the provider first, the person who is giving Reiki healing, right? And we start to work with client and us, and I use a lot of the idea of subconscious mind. See, I like to use science as the background for even Reiki energy and healing. And the reason why I do it is I am a very logical person. That's number one. And also, the students that I get are logical. So I have to explain it to them in a very logical way. Like I was explaining to you just a minute back, that we start to create an entrainment process. Like we say, there's an incubator, right? There's an incubator where we've got a high energy source, which is Reiki. Now, one thing which I do want to explain, when I say high energy source, that is Reiki, I'm not saying I am high energy. It has nothing to do with the healer. When you call Reiki, the Reiki is doing its work. You as a person, you don't go into that ego, oh my gosh, I am healing people. Reiki is healing people, right? So Reiki is high level energy. It doesn't matter what my energy in the day is. I might have just had a fight with my husband, doesn't matter. But if I call in Reiki, Reiki will do the job for me. I might be in low energy, but when I call in Reiki, I become high energy, right? So there's high energy and then there is low energy. Now, when the energy kind of comes together and they balance, that process in physics is called entrainment. So
Hmm.
there is science to it, right? It's called entrainment process, right? So in physics, it's called entrainment process. So I like to combine science with it, use the subconscious mind and work with it, give logic to the idea of Reiki healing. And the best way to explain how everything works together when we are talking about subconscious mind, we are using the idea of visualization and imagination when we are healing others. If somebody has come and they've said that, oh my gosh, I am very stressed, I have anxiety. So you start to visualize them while you are aligning their chakras and helping them. You start to visualize them in a happy place. I can give you guys an example. So a client came to me and she had lupus. Okay. Now lupus is an autoimmune disease. Your muscles completely give up. You're not able to move hands. Your legs are contracted. Your body is in a lot of pain. Right. So as she was sitting in front of me and I was helping her with the Reiki session, her hands, her fingers could not move. So in my mind's eye, as I was aligning her chakras, I was also working on providing Reiki energy to her and visualizing that our hands are moving. Her hands are moving in full pace that they can, slowly increasing the speed. She is getting the strength back. She is receiving all the energy and she's getting her strength back. Each cell of her body is communicating with me, is communicating with Reiki, and is receiving Reiki. She's getting stronger and stronger every minute. What am I doing? I'm doing it through a visualization, right? That's how I always say your subconscious mind is completely involved in Reiki. It's not a woo woo subject, right? You do Reiki with the idea of visualization, visualizing a protection around you, for example. If you are giving Reiki to yourself, right? You are imagining yourself in a light, in a pyramid light, right? Or in a bubble of light, however you want to imagine yourself. When we are, so this is one of the practices, right, which I do probably every day in the morning. I'll get up and I'll say, I'm safe, sealed, and protected. I'm safe, sealed, and protected. And I put myself in a pyramid. What is that? I am, yes, calling in energy. I'm, yes, connecting with myself, but I'm using my imagination. I'm using my mind, right? So 110%, the idea of Reiki is all through our senses, is all through our senses, working with our own bodies, learning to trust ourselves, learning to communicate with ourselves. That's what it is. So that's how the subconscious mind is really in it when we work through Reiki, right? It's very, very connected. You're using so much of your mind. You can't do it without your mind and your imagination.
True. That's from a provider perspective. And as a receiver,
As a receiver, as a client, the client, when we are working with the client, they really don't have a lot of uh, input or doing in the practice of Reiki. So that is why I always say, even if you are a level 1 or a level 2, Reiki practitioner with me, I always tell people to guide your clients also through understanding of chakras. Tell them what chakras are. Of course, I can do the visualization in my head for you and I can send you back home. You will feel very good, you will feel relaxed, and you will do excellently well. Results will still come. But guide and tell your clients also, educate them on where to focus on when you are focusing on. Talk to them. Usually, that's not the practice, Meena.
Mm.
As far as energy healing is concerned, the client has to do nothing. The client comes and they lie down on the table with you, and you are just giving Reiki with them on your Reiki table. That's the main practice, right? That's how we do it traditionally. In my world, I always say when you are going towards the root chakra, say it. Say, I'm now working with your root chakra. So their mind also starts to work with you and their focus comes to the root chakra, and both people work together. I always say this. So from a client's perspective, there's not much except for being present in the session. The healer does most of the job and the client receives that energy from the healer when they are continuing that practice, right? So that's what really happens. So from a client perspective, there's not much input. The healer is doing the job, and mainly the Reiki that healer has with them.
So NLP comes separate to what we have discussed now, because I know you are incorporating NLP into it.
Yeah, I 110% do. I like to incorporate a couple of different ideas. So NLP for me is the idea of working with mind, which is neuro, so subconscious mind, working with language, linguistics, right? And then programming our mind. NLP uses a lot of language to program. Energy healing, not so much.
Mm.
It is more quieter. It is working on the field, on the electromagnetic field on the person, the aura of the person. So they are different, yes, but in my opinion, it's a great combination. It's a great combination.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Um, Ankita, what you've explained, the question, like I've got a couple of questions, but I'll shoot it one by one. So the first is like with Reiki being the healing energy, is it then means because you mentioned it's working on all the seven chakras, and we say all the chakras, as you mentioned, it's all associated with the internal glands, each of the chakras. So if someone has got any physical condition or internally they have some conditions, like as you mentioned about the autoimmune disease. So even though they're coming for a different reason, like I'm anxious about it, or I'm something what they see on a superficial level, but when the alignment happens after the healer does the Reiki healing on them, do they really see the difference in their healing, the physical healing of whatever the conditions they had, which was not spoken out loud?
110%. As we practice our healing, I think one of the major benefits, which is less talked about, Reiki healing, is the more you practice as a healer, I'm talking about, you become very intuitive. You become very intuitive in your practice. There's a when I teach them to do readings. So the first step I really teach is to do readings of other people's chakras. Where are they blocked? How much do you think is blocked? What does this blockage means to you? So I increase the intuition of my healers quite a lot. I work specifically on them trusting their inner voices, specifically trusting themselves as a healer. So when we are working on the chakras, now I'm going to give you guys an example that will really clarify the question that you have asked. So if somebody comes to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, Ankita, I have migraine and my head really hurts," according to them, it's a migraine problem. Correct? So it's not that because it's a migraine problem, I will only work on third eye and the crown. They could have migraine because they have issues in their relationships, which is a root chakra problem. It's not a crown or an eye third eye chakra problem, right? So they might actually need healing on the root that will automatically fix the migraine, right? So as a healer, intuitively you work. If the client comes to you with a problem, you note down that problem, you work with your own body and the Reiki energy, and you start with the chakras. You start with the root, you see where the imbalance is, you get the information. And when I say you get the information, it might sound a little bit, you're getting the information from where? See, all of us are connected through this beautiful thing called electromagnetic field. We are all a part of a very big whole. So this whole, and then we are a small part of it, right? But we are all connected because we are a part of the same whole. Every single person, and the best way to explain this to you, not making it woo woo also, is how you think of a friend and suddenly that friend calls and you're like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about you only. That happens, isn't it? That's exactly how healing works. When you connect yourself with somebody, you are energetically connected. Telepathy automatically happens, right? It automatically starts to rotate. That's where the real healing actually begins. So we are all a part of a big whole. We have to understand that. And it's very easy, if you learn it the right way, to connect with people and understand what is going on in their electromagnetic field. It will be very hard for me to explain it right now, the whole process that we follow, but it's all about increasing your intuition. First, connecting with yourself. That's the first thing. And then connecting with energetic field of other people with permission, always with permission. In my world, permission is very, very big. If you're working with somebody, I always say until unless you have complete surrender and you have requested for permission to connect with them. Until the time you get that connection in your head, continue to request for permission, stay in gratitude, surrender, stay in gratitude, ask for permission. So, until unless your body is feeling that permission, you connect with them. And that's where you start the healing process and do. Very, very intuitive. So, a person might come to me for anxiety or a headache or stress, but there could be a problem in their heart. There could be a problem in their sacral where they're not really using their creative element, their sexuality, their feminism, the femininity inside of them. So the sacral is going to be blocked. If they're not stepping into who they truly are, their solar plexus is going to be blocked, right? If they are not voicing their opinion, and that's why sometimes people don't understand. Migraines can come from control. And control always is not about controlling the situation. Sometimes it could be controlling your own voice. I'm not able to say what I want to say. And then you get this headache, right? Your body feels stress. So that's where we start to heal the throat chakra. Now, people might not do that. But as healer with your own intuitive energies, you start to work through and you will feel blockages in particular areas of the chakras. You will feel it. You will actually, when you start scanning people, and I teach you that, you start to feel that there's a blockage in the throat. Then you realize, okay, the headache is not because there is a headache. The headache is because they're not voicing their opinion. They're not saying what they need to say. So you release that blockage. You free them of that. And most of the time, people will have physical symptoms when I'm actually doing therapy sessions with them. People will start coughing immediately when I'm working on their throat, releasing the extra energy, right? There's lots that happens, right? So people will start coughing it out. Sometimes people will sneeze continuously if they're wanting to release something out of their body. Some body movements, a little bit of shake, just releasing the excess energy out of their body that is no longer required. So there's a lot that goes in the process, but it's basically intuitive as a healer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for explaining it really clearly. Another question. I'm not too sure how related this would be in our discussion for today, but um, you know, um, for quite some time I've been thinking about for myself, like personally, like there is some blockage around money mindset in the sense, like how we've been brought up as a child, like there's like be content. Like my father's philosophy is be content with what you have, but that contentment is not allowing me to expand myself in terms of whether it's coaching or receiving money and things like that. Now I understand you do also do the money mindset coaching. So in is it like with the chakras, is that money thing associated? Because we see money as spiritual thing, it's an exchange of energy. In that aspect, does Reiki healing help in those aspects as well?
110%. So you have to understand, when we start to work on and understand things from energy perspective, everything is energy, right? So when we talk about money, money also has a specific energy. And when we get to the idea of, okay, I want to manifest more money, we have to understand this basic simple rule of manifestation: like attracts like. If you are like money, money will like you. As simple as that. But question is, are you like money? That's the big question, right? Is your frequency matching with money, right? If there are two friends, their frequency has to match, right? They have to enjoy each other's company. They have to make sure when they sit together, they have a good hearty chat. If you have a, after you've met that friend of yours, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I wasted 1 hour of mine, right? It was not good. And then you are feeling, example, if you are feeling judged by the friend, like, oh my gosh, she was just looking at me and she was just judging me, everything that I do, she always points something out. The issue in our life is money is constantly feeling like being judged in your life. Money feels so judged by us, right? Oh my gosh, I don't have enough. Only if I had more of you, then I would have. It's constant judgment. You pay a bill, you're like, oh my gosh, next bill has come. Only I paid the water bill, again it has come. Now I have to pay this fees. Now I have to. We are constantly judging money and its existence. Now we have to understand what energy does money operates from. Money operates from the energy of gratitude. When somebody pays something to me, I would send them received with gratitude. That's the first thing that I would say to them. When I am spending money outwardly somewhere out, so spent with gratitude. The more I flow it, the more it comes back to me, right? Energy is always flowing. So energy has to flow. And what do? We hoard the idea of money. I should have more. Energy has its flow. Money has its own flow. It needs to be flowing. So like attracts like. I always say the best way to attract money is to be in its energy. The energy of money is the energy of gratitude. Say for I'll give you an example. Today we are all sitting here, we've got lights all around us, right? We are using the electricity, correct? When the bill comes, we crib, but we have used this electricity. So what should we do? We should give money and say with gratitude, because we have to pay back for the things that we have utilized. But we don't do that. Using electricity, we are very happy. Paying the bill, oh my gosh, we are gone, right? So when you give also, you've received it, now it's time for giving. Give happily also. For the entire month, you had water. Now, when you're paying the bill, pay it with a smile, say gratitude, right? Thank you so much for the water that I received for this entire month. It went in my body, each cell of my body was nurtured by this water, this food. Buying groceries, say thank you. Everything that I will pick up from the store today is going to nurture my body. Gratitude. When you are in alignment of gratitude yourself, because money is the energy of gratitude, right? Money is the energy of gratitude. You are saying, if you are working with me, Indu, right? You're working with me today. I will provide you my services. I'll provide you my services. How will you say thank you to me? Through money, right? So money is all thank you. Thank you for the service. Thank you for providing me this. If you're buying clothes, you're wearing clothes. Thank you for the clothes. So money has energy of gratitude. When you start saying in gratitude, that's where you start to attract it. And how is that you can stay in gratitude? The first step of Reiki is to stay in gratitude. Gratitude of your teachers, gratitude of who you are, being present in the now, gratitude of the trees that are around, gratitude of the nature, gratitude of. So give gratitude. We always give gratitude, a lot of gratitude to anyone who comes to our mind. And say give gratitude for 10 minutes if you feel like, when you're calling in the Reiki. So if you stay in that energy, then money is inevitable. And of course, you have to work on your beliefs, not pointing that out, you don't have to. Aligning your chakras, working on your beliefs. I always say energy healing is one part of the system. The way I like to work and I like to teach is in three parts. And I do these three parts with everybody and I teach the whole platform based on these three parts. I call it my EME embodiment method. The first E stands for energy work. You must understand your energy, right? Because sometimes you're not using words, but you're using your energy to express yourself. So first E stands for energy. The second E stands for mind. That is where I get NLP into picture. Neuro linguistic programming, working on your beliefs, working on the value systems that you have, working on your language, working on the decisions that you take, right? And the last E stands for emotions. That is where we get timeline therapy into picture. So my method of working with people is the EME embodiment. I get all three together and I work with people. So when it comes to things like money, of course, you have to focus on beliefs as well. Energy will help and aid that process.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Ankita.
Not a problem.
Yeah, it's a lot of learning from you, Ankita, and we have received this podcast with a lot of gratitude, I would say. And we are coming to a close now. If our listeners has to take one thing from this conversation, what is the message you would like to leave?
I think the message that I would like to give every single one of them, very, very important message. And this message is not just all about Reiki. You can do it however you want it. You can do it through Reiki healing, you can do it through journaling, through yoga, through meditation, through learning NLP, learning other modalities like pranic healing. However you do it, do this one thing 100% in your life. Learn how is that you can listen to your body and trust yourself. The first voice that comes from your body, how you know don't push it under the everyday clutter that you have. However you learn it, you must learn to trust your body and listen to your body. Well, Reiki energy does great job teaching you that. So of course I say start with Reiki. If you haven't started with anything and you don't know where to start with, start with Reiki. Reiki is a great and a very soft practice to start with some sort of healing, right? So the first step, people ask me what is the first step. First step should be Reiki, understanding your own energy system. Being able to heal yourself is a great power. Great power. Being able to heal yourself, working with your body, working with your own energy systems, calling in Reiki. I always say Reiki is a friend. Whenever in doubt, just call Reiki. How empowering is it that you're never alone then? It's not like you can, it's so beautiful. So call in Reiki energy, learn energy healing, any sorts. Have a friend, have a modality working with you, right? And learn how to trust your bodies, listen to that inner voice. That is the must that one has to do. However you do it, you should focus on this.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how can our audience find you? Like, what do you offer at the moment, and what can they get from reaching out to you?
Sure. So we have multiple courses, Meena, that we do under our institute. Our institute's name is International Institute of NLP and Hypnosis, which is also called IINH. There are four certifications that we provide. The first certification is Reiki. Of course, we provide Reiki certification. The second certification we provide is NLP. Third is timeline therapy. And the fourth is hypnosis. So we work with all of that apart from teaching people how to coach with these practices, right? So these are the four certifications that we provide. We also have an in-house life coaching certification that is a separate course. We also teach mastering manifestation, in which I combine quantum science, energy healing, and the idea of subconscious work, NLP and timeline therapy as well. And how do you manifest from that space that is truly yours? Right? So, mastering manifestation is also one of our very popular courses. Then, one of the oldest courses that I deliver from my parenting days of working with parents is triggers to transformation. It's a 5-step framework that I have created through which you can take any trigger in your current life, and transform that trigger into your own personal healing. It's a very beautiful 5 step process. If you follow the 5 step process, it is destined to give you a massive result. That's how that process is built. And the other courses that we run is the in-house challenges, which is 21-day money mindset challenge, classes on relationship. So it's we offer a lot, but majorly it's the 4 certifications that we do, and then of course these smaller courses that are available for general public as well, for us to offer. Not hard to find me. If you Google NLP trainer Ankita, you will be able to find me as well. And I would give you guys my Instagram handles and my website, and you guys can put that in the description.
Sure. Thank you.
We had a beautiful discussion today, Ankita. There was a lot of insights for me personally because I haven't dealt with much of energy healing work or anything of that space. So, understanding about what Reiki is, and that's a very powerful thing to say. Like, start with gratitude. I think I started practicing not like from the early stages, like it's only very recently, like, okay, yeah, this is gratitude. And since then, the very little time I've started doing it, I see the life is so beautiful regardless of whatever it throws at us. Like, and yeah, thanks for the insights. And I believe people are getting a lot of benefits joining the courses and the programs with you. I personally been in touch with you, not through in the coaching space, but with the timeline therapy work that we did in a different space. But lovely meeting you in this space. Thanks, Ankita. Thanks.